I'm not going to work for you. I'm not going to use your credit cards or spend money for you. I'm not paying your bills for you. So if you don't learn those simple, basic things in life, you're going to struggle with finances.
Because it's so not common knowledge of how credit, it's like insurance. It's like we're not supposed to know how it works. It's how the world makes money.
How many people, if they don't have the right score, how many people know what to do? If people don't qualify for a mortgage to buy a house, how many people actually know why? Let me ask you this question. Why do you think people are intimidated?
They're
Is it more
intimidated because they
ego?
don't have a good relationship with money and they were never taught about money.
Is it ego? They're afraid to look bad in front of their friends, or is it because they think they just don't know what to do?
Welcome back to Moving Sucks. And today we have a guest. He's no stranger to our podcast. He's he's a stranger to Moving Sucks, but not Millennia Up. We've spoken to him before, but it is Ryan Alexander from I Teach Credit. Yeah.
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on here.
Very excited to. So one of the biggest things that we run into with clients when for an objection of buying a house is, oh, I need to work on my credit. Using topics, I'm so overhearing that because I say, okay, well, I got to work on my credit before I buy a house. Okay, who is guiding you in that, and how do you know what to do? Because credit is just a game, and you need to know how to play it. And people just think like, well, I have to pay off like just some credit cards, and then like magically my score will go up. I said, are you sure? Like, why? You should have somebody who is looking at your credit to be able to tell you what is going to impact it more than others, because otherwise people are just going into this blindly saying, I'm fixing my credit, but on what foundation? And then they waste like a year wondering, why has this only changed like 5 points? And it's because they're not going to a credible source. So Ryan Alexander, you're not credit repair. You teach a man to fish, and you teach people about their credit and give them a customized solution for themselves and how to boost their scores. So I'll leave it to you. Anything I left out about your introduction?
No, I mean, I know you listen to me because I throw that analogy out all the time. Credit repair, they give you the fish. And I straight up tell any person who is a prospect with me, I am not doing the work for you. I will sell you the fishing rod. I will teach you how it works, and I will show you what you have to do. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to work for you. I'm not going to use your credit cards or spend money for you. I'm not paying your bills for you. So if you don't learn those simple, basic things in life, you're going to struggle with finances. And that's where, what I've created, the 90-day credit challenge, it focuses on the three most important things, which really leads to buying a house. Number one is a budget. I mean, you know how important a budget is. Number two, it's understanding the factors that actually make up your FICO score. Like if people do or don't qualify, what percentage of them actually know why? And if you don't know why, you can't grow. And the third thing is credit cards. And credit cards right now are a huge topic because of the economy, with the cost of things, of goods going up. It's important to understand how, when, and why you should use credit cards and how to manage them properly. So yeah, I mean, you did a great intro, and I'm excited for this. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's one of my hot topics because it just really it blows my mind when people just say they're just guessing, because it's so not common knowledge of how credit. It's like insurance. It's like we're not supposed to know how it works. It's how the world makes money. And
it's very true.
There is such a strategy, and it like can be complex, but it also can be broken down pretty simply when you actually know it. But like people are just guessing, and there is like, why guess when you don't have to? So that's why we bring on an expert to be able to tell people, what they really do need to do. And I encourage people, like, I get nothing from this. It's other than you just getting to the end result faster.
And that's exactly what's going to happen by people listening to you and listening to this podcast, because what I want to do is I want to trim the fat. I'm going to cut the BS out of it. I want to get right to, if you want to live better, you got to do a little better. And if you understood what to do, I'm going to ask both of you, like you said, how many people, if they don't have the right score, how many people know what to do? If people don't qualify for a mortgage to buy a house, how many people actually know why? How many people know what to do? Okay, I don't qualify. What do I have to do? I want to give people simple 5th grade level action steps, because if I can make it so simple that you're not confused, You have no excuse to not take action. It's simply a matter of saying, okay, I have to do this. Cool. It's like a Rubik's Cube. I always say, I look at every credit report as a Rubik's Cube. Once I look at it, I figure out how to solve it. Then all I do is I'll say, hey, Seth, here's the first thing I want you to do. I don't want you to solve the Rubik's Cube. I want you to do this first step. Because when you do it, two things happen. Number one, you get a boost in your score. That leads to you being excited, and that leads to more action. And that's it. If we can give baby steps, and I hate to talk like a fifth grader, but sometimes that's just what people need to take action, because if they don't know what to do, they don't know how to do it, they do nothing. And that's why people fail. So yeah, I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Was there anything, like any particular question? Was there anything in particular you guys wanted me to start with?
Oh, yeah. Well, you started off. So step number one is you said budget.
Yes.
So
Budget is the most underrated, undervalued tool that every single household should start with. And it's not taught in schools, at least not frequently enough. And I'm going to tell you, I blame the parents. It's not the school's job to make sure that the kids come home and
Ooh,
execute what they learn.
That's a spicy one.
you're
Let's
not wrong.
throw parents under the bus.
Absolutely, right? Because
No.
parents are blaming their kids, but when you go, blaming the teachers.
I
like,
mean, listen, would I have benefited more from going to budgeting class than like trigonometry? 1,000%. So I'll push back on some schools to at least have some, they need to work on getting some practical life skills into the mix there. But parents
Yeah.
are off the hook. It's our job to raise our children to have some financial literacy.
Yeah, I've been listening to this guy on YouTube in the mornings during my work at Scott Galloway, and he's like, we should replace like 4 classes in your senior year of high school and just make it called adulting. He's like, you have advanced trigonometry and you're in advanced calculus, but you don't even know what an interest rate is on what the interest rate is on your credit card and how that all works.
Yeah, kids
so
don't know the difference between a debit card or a credit card.
Well,
Yeah.
I was with Seth and I were talking about this yesterday. Is like there's a lot of people. There's misconception that like credit cards bad. Like don't use credit cards, scary. But like meanwhile, I was 18. I opened a credit card as soon as I could, used it for gas, groceries, and like if only I had kept that one open. But like the length of having that credit card was like phenomenal for my credit.
And people underestimate that. Goes to this, the first thing was budget, understanding how much money you make, understanding how much money you spend, what you spend on, how many hidden subscriptions do you pay for that you don't even use anymore,
I don't want to
gym memberships, Netflix series or whatever. But the next thing is understanding credit cards, right?
Like I totally have a gym membership that I have not done anything with for like a year.
Right. But people don't go through. They'd rather be like, oh, I don't want to see it. And be like, oh, nope. Just take a quick 30 seconds and look and see what you have going on.
Well, it's because ignorance is bliss. People don't want to be told on them. Yeah. People don't want to tell them themselves. It's a very humbling experience to have to actually face it when you could just not. So people choose not to.
Yep. And that's coming to credit cards. Like people always say, Ryan, you're always holding Amex cards. Do you want to know why I love Amex cards? Amex cards teach you to pay in full every single month. Why do I love that? Because credit cards, they're like, hey, that's awesome, Jen. You spent $1,000 last month. Make a minimum monthly payment. 3 weeks from now, you get a credit card you spend for 7 weeks before the first payment is due. At least American Express is like, hey, Seth, you spent $1,000 last month. Pay $1,000. Credit cards are like, congratulations, you spent $1,000. Make a minimum monthly payment of $35 and pay 27% interest. And we wonder why there's the average credit card user has $7,130 of credit card debt right now.
Imagine
at 27% interest.
Instead.
What's that?
Imagine what you could do with that money instead.
That's $1,900 a year if you do the math. $1,900 a year of compounding credit card interest against you. Your investments aren't getting you 19 or 27%. Your investments, an average savings account's like 0.25%. A high yield savings account's like between 3.75 to 4.25 right now. Credit cards are costing you. They're like, oh, I got my 100,000 point bonus of points and I'm earning 2x back. Great. You're earning 2% back, paying 27% interest. That's the simple educational component with regards to credit cards that I like to bring to people's attention. When you're buying things that you don't really need and you're like, oh, my wife deserves this ring and I deserve this car and all this other stuff. What happens is people put themselves in situations and at the end of the day, you don't realize the ongoing cost that it happens. And that's where I just want to create educational information that says, hey, let's just think about these. If it's 0% interest, that's great. Perfect. But if it's not 0% interest, like I had a guy who just bought $30,000 painting on a cruise 2 years ago. He still owes $30,000 on it. I'm like, why? That's cost him an extra $7,000 a year in credit card interest because he's paying 26% interest. He told me he knew the interest rate on it. That's the awareness that I want to create for people because it makes buying a home more fun, more easy, and more attainable when you just look at simple things in your finances every single week.
And it's stuff like that too. Like I've been on enough like lender calls and calls with you to have found and understand that a lot of people who are in this position who they go through their pre-qualification or their pre-approval process find that their credit scores are lower than they had expected. And we don't just leave it at that. That's not like the SLG way over here. We don't say like, oops, sorry. Like this is where you're at. We try to make you the strongest buyer possible. And I've been on enough of these to be able to see like, somebody will say, well, I'm going to pay like there's 4 cards and whatever their utilization is on them. Well, I'm going to go pay off like this one, but it's like, no. Like, well, which one has like the highest interest rate on it? What do you actually owe on it? And then like the strategy behind paying off one instead of another at this time, which one is actually going to have a bigger impact? And that's the kind of stuff that I'm like, I find like people don't really know. And they say like, oh yeah, well, I'll pay that off and this is going to happen. But it's like, when you have multiple credit cards and across all of them and you have established a budget. So let's say people are past the budgetary stage and they say, okay, well, this is what I have, but the question should be, which do I put it towards? And which is going to give me the best result back to be able to get me within 90 days, if that's what we're working towards, to get me qualified to be able to buy this house.
Seth, did you want to say something? Because I want to I have a great response right now.
No. You go ahead. You're the guest.
You sure?
Oh, yeah.
So here's the answer. When you're looking at people who have credit card debt, if you're listening to this right now and you have credit card debt, here's the way you attack credit card debt. People will say sometimes the snowball method. They'll say the card with the highest balance, the card with the highest interest rate. Here's the fastest, easiest way to tackle your credit card debt to not only boost your credit score, to reduce the amount of interest you pay, and to eliminate the debt as quickly as possible. The first thing you always look at is the credit card with the highest percentage of utilization. Here's why. Utilization percentage is what influences your credit score. It's not the dollar amount. If you have a credit card that's got $1,000 and a credit card that's got $10,000, okay? If the $1,000 credit card has got 100% credit card utilization and the $10,000 credit card is at 50% utilization, I promise you, paying that $1,000, instead of putting it to the $10,000 card, pay that card to zero. And watch what happens to your credit score because it's the percentage of utilization first. Then you look at cards with the dollar amount. Because if you have, let's say you have one credit card that's got $1,000 on it, but you have 4 credit cards that in total have $1,000 of total credit card debt, you can pay off 4 credit cards, get them all to zero. That may boost your score more than the one card where you would apply $1,000 to it. Now, if $1,000 is maxed out, that's where you pay that off first. If it's $1,000 and a $5,000 limit, and you can pay off 4 other credit cards with that $1,000, zero out those 4 other credit cards because that'll help you the best. The next, last, and final thing is the reporting date. Most people don't understand the reporting date. You have a 30-day cycle. Okay, here's the starting day of the month. Here's the ending day of the month. What happens is you spend for 30 days. Let's just conceptually say this is March. Then you have April 1st. April 1st, they say, congratulations, you spent $1,000. Your payment due date is here. What people don't realize is the last day of every cycle is your reporting date. So every last day, if you get a card on the 1st, the 30th is your reporting date. If you get a card on the 17th, the 16th of the next month is your reporting date. It's a 30-day cycle. The last day, even if you pay your credit card in full every single month, if you're still reporting higher utilization, your score can still be suffering. And that's where it's important to know by look at the card with the highest percentage, look at the card with the smallest dollar amount, because you tackle that and then find the card that's going to report next. Boom. I've been able to boost scores 102 points in as little as 9 days by implementing that strategy.
So can you tell people how they can find when their reporting date is? Because you said it's 30-day cycle from when they essentially open their account, right?
Yep. Now, I know realtors and mortgage professionals, they cringe when I do this, but I'm going to do it anyway, and it's okay. You're going to open up this awesome little app. It is free. It is called Credit Karma. You come in here and you can see, I'm speaking from experience and speaking from authority with 800 scores. Not that you might have higher scores than me, but you come into Credit Karma, you're going to go down to this little place where it's going to say credit card usage. The second link, when you come into credit factors, you're going to see credit factors say credit card usage. You tap credit card usage, you select any one of your cards. Now, notice something. Let's have a little fun with this. What percentage credit card utilization should you report for your listeners?
I already know this one.
What percentage should you report for your credit cards? It's 3%. People are like 30%, 50%, 20%, 10%, 3%. That doesn't mean you shouldn't use your cards. You should use them all the time. When you come in here, you can see it tells you.
You said they should report 3%, meaning you pay
Report.
it down to before your reporting date.
Correct. I don't care if you max out. If you have a $500 credit card, if you spend $500 a week in groceries and max it out, I'm okay with that. As long as 3 days before the statement cycle closes, you pay that thing down. Now, 3% on $500, 10% would be $50, 1% would be $5. That means your reported balance should be somewhere between $15 to $20. Okay? The reporting date, let's just say we select an account right here. You may not be able to see it on here. Real big, it says American
Zoom in
Express.
on oh, that's not a real card. I was gonna say, I want to zoom in on those numbers up there.
Right there. It says last reported February 25th. So what that means is 3 days before the 25th of every month, I make sure that credit card never reports more than 3% usage. Now, this is a $16,000 credit card. So 10% is $16, 1% is $160. That means I can report $300 and I'm totally okay. I don't recommend that. That's why I teach people pay your credit cards to zero every single week and never get yourself into the trap of credit card debt.
You have told me this for myself before, and I always forget this part.
What?
To the reporting date.
Yeah. It happens. It's okay.
Yeah, I'm
That's
going
why
to
I
get
know.
off of this, and I'm going to be going into my Capital One account and be like, shit.
I have a question, and just for some action items for our listeners, can you talk to us about what we come up against a lot is that people have credit that's not terrible, but they need to get it up enough where it can get them into a conventional program or get them, maybe, into some better terms. Can you talk to us about the 90-day program that you do? Because I think that we've had success with clients in getting and kind of optimizing their file. Can you talk to us through that process and what that looks like before we wrap up?
Absolutely. So the 90-day credit challenge, what I do, the first thing is I want people to build a budget, and we talked about that. Have a rough idea. Okay, you know how much money, for most people, you make a salary, you know what it is. Most people, they're not independent business owners or they don't have several streams of income. So it's real simple. If you have a salary, $60,000 a year, it's $5,000 a month. Roughly figure out what do you walk away with after taxes. That's the first thing. Then go through your checkbook, go through your bank account, go through your credit cards and say, okay, where am I spending money? You got your rent or mortgage, you got utilities, you got your car payment, insurance and stuff like that. Go through that. Once you go through that stuff, you figure, okay, here's what we actually have. And then here's where you figure out how much fluff you're spending. How much are you spending on Starbucks and going to Chick-fil-A with the kids, right? Because people are like, oh, well, my kids, no. Settle your debts, take care of that first.
And I'll
The
say
second
too,
thing
a lot
everybody
of
should do
banking apps these days
What's that?
are, I was going to say, and to your point before we get to the next one, is as far as figuring out, because it can sound really daunting to somebody to be like, go to their bank statement and see what's coming out every single month. But a lot of banking apps are able to just kind of categorize, what are your recurring payments that are coming out at the same time every month. And we'll usually say, you can usually find what it is that's coming out every single month, make it easy. Instead of
There are definitely apps for that. I haven't found any that are free. And if you have one, I know one of the most popular is, I think it's called YNAB, Know Your Budget or something like that. That's a good one. For me, a simple spreadsheet, because you can get a piece of paper. There's a girl, her name is Ashley All About Money. She literally takes a pen and a piece of paper and she just writes down every credit card. She writes down every expense on those credit cards. It's real simple. If I had a good one, I'll do a little research on that to get back to you on that. I don't have a banking app that works as well as Credit Karma. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I just mean as far as being able to, for somebody themselves to be able to see what's coming out of their account on a regular basis, to not have to go through and fish through. It will usually be able to find those for you and search them. I have PNC, I know I can just search in mortgage and it'll just pull up everything comes out, so I can quickly find it. But
And that's great. I mean, honestly, I haven't looked at that, and that's probably something I should look more into because that would probably be really helpful. So that's one of the things that I would definitely do. The next thing would be downloading 3 apps: Credit Karma, Experian, and NerdWallet. NerdWallet's going to be kind of one of those financial tools that's really, really good. They give lots of great information, lots of good education. That's one of the things I would absolutely do. So first is building the budget. The second thing is understanding what's happening with your finances on the credit side of things. And then the third thing is a weekly checkup, like checks and balances. Every single week, if people literally every 7 days just spend 15 minutes. I know at first it's daunting. It's daunting when you're not taking care of it. It's kind of like when you didn't do your homework, you were sweating the teacher asking. But if you did your homework, you weren't worried about it. Well, if you look at your finances every 7 days versus every 30, right? Because that's why people get into trouble. If every 7 days, 1 week, 2 week, 3 week, 4 week, you manage your finances, it's a lot simpler. If you go 30 days, you're like, oh man, I blew my budget again this month. Oh, well, maybe next month. If you break that down to I blew my budget this week, well, cool. You still have 3 weeks to make up for the rest of the month. It makes it simpler and easier to manage. And that's what my 90-day challenge is about. It's called the 7-day credit cycle. Every 7 days, you're looking at your income, you're looking at the cash on hand, you're looking at your expenses, and you're looking to say, where can I trim the fat? And that's the simplest, best way that I've been able to help thousands of people simply by looking every 7 days instead of every 30 days.
Well, what it really comes down to is discipline. Because, like, that would make life so much easier. And I mean, I think you say that, and I'm just in my head because it's the end of March, about to be tax day. It's like taxes, where I'm coming up on tax day, and I'm looking at 365 days of days I didn't manage my expenses. Whereas, had you just done it every single week. It's same with finances, and I think that people just get afraid and intimidated by it. Because, like I said before, ignorance is bliss. But if they really just listen to you and actually follow your advice and just like do the hard thing a few times, they'll find, by day 30, oh, it wasn't so bad.
Let me ask you this question. Why do you think people are intimidated?
They're
Is it more
intimidated because they
ego?
don't have a good relationship with money and they were never taught about money.
Is it ego? They're afraid to look bad in front of their friends, or is it because they think they just don't know what to do?
Well, I think there's a combination of a lot of things, but I think there's a fear of money that just kind of pervades all of this stuff where, I think people's relationship with money dictates a lot of what they end up doing with like credit and savings and budgeting and everything like that.
Just like people don't want to be told that they're doing something wrong, or like, and not even told, but like they don't want to feel like they've done something wrong, and they have to, if they, and it's not even from like other people, because you're the only one who's seeing that side of things other than themselves. It's not like they're kind of going out and showboating around to all their friends like, oh, look at how much I spent on all my streaming services in that gym I don't go to this month. But like it's you have to look at your own frivolous, maybe not frivolous, but like you have to look at where you're at, and it may not be what you want to see. And you may have done things that you don't want to admit to. And it's people having to swallow that pill and face it.
Well, I think the two of us have opinions, but Ryan has this longing look in his eye. I think he has an answer. He wants to answer his own question. So let's give him the ability to do so at this point.
No, I think with regards to credit and money, people don't know and they're embarrassed and don't want to look stupid.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I think we need to create a movement of simple credit and financial literacy, basic credit and financial literacy, so that it's not a taboo topic that at Thanksgiving we're not going to talk about it. Like people don't want to talk about it when they're broke. People know if you're broke. Don't be embarrassed by that. Be embarrassed by not doing something about it, even if you just learn simple budgeting. Even if you just learn, like I have people that I know, they won't even get a regular secure credit card. They'll put $1,000 a month on a debit card. They won't get a secure credit card because they're like, oh, I just don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the biggest thing is people are afraid to look stupid. I had a guy yesterday, 480 credit score. 480 credit score. His girl called to help boost her score. She's a 610, and they're trying to get a grant program. He says, "Oh, I don't have to worry about I'm just not even worried about it." I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, what's your credit score?" He goes, 480.
Don't have to worry about what.
480. So you're going to let
Don't have
her
to
do
worry
all the heavy
about.
lifting for you? That bothers me. Like we need to just step up, and we need to encourage, we need to support, we need to have accountability, and kind of like to your point earlier, you only have to look one day in the mirror. Because once you look in the mirror and you uncover the problem, you're like, all right, here's the problem. All right, today's over. Tomorrow we work on fixing that. It's not a permanent problem. It's a very temporary problem if you're willing to work on it.
Yeah. And I mean, it all goes back to, I mean, that's why we have you on, is people who just kind of get themselves stuck from not being able to buy a house because they just say, oh, I can't, but they don't look in the mirror to actually do something about it. And it's like, listen, like, trust us. Like, this is the most judgment-free zone imaginable. The only way I will judge you is if you're not willing to do something about it. But like, I want to hear how shitty your credit is. I want to hear about how you don't know how to budget, and like, don't be embarrassed by the fact that like nobody might have taught you, because now I'll teach you. And that's okay. It's never too late to grow
And that's
to
the
learn.
reality. There's people willing to help.
Yeah.
Right? Like I'm willing to help.
We do it for a living. We want to see you get into a house.
Yeah.
And you know, if you screwed up at one point, all right, are you willing to like not screw up now, or you want to like keep screwing up and like keep yourself in this like really shitty cycle? If that's the case, have at it. Bye. But like, if you want to fix it, we have a whole team of people who want to fix that for you. I had somebody come to me yesterday who said that like they need to get out of where they're living, and like her fiance wants to rent, but she wants to buy, but like their credit isn't the greatest, but like where do they start, or like what should they do? And I'm like, well, first things first, you need credit. You need good credit regardless if you rent or you buy. So I would start there. Well, I would start with that and go somewhere safe that's good for your mental health. But I was like, renting's not bad. Like if you need time to work through like your credit and your budgeting, and need to know how much you need to have saved and all of that, like find somewhere to live first, regardless of what it is, like get somewhere to go. But then we're going to put you in contact with credit and be able to work through that. I did throw you out there for that. And then let's give it like a year goal that maybe this time next year you want to be buying instead. And that's perfectly fine. We're not going to like shove you and rush you into a house. We want to make sure that it's done correctly and that it's done responsibly, and that, you know, we're working on building your credit the right way, and that we're working on getting your budget established so that.
And I think you just said something huge. I'm going to interrupt you. You just said something that I think people don't do. And that is, you got to have long-term goal and short-term goal, because you'll never hit long-term goal if you don't have small, attainable little goals that you can celebrate. If that celebration is at the end of the month, you saved $150 and that's a big achievement for you, cool. And then go take $20 and go celebrate having a drink or a Starbucks or whatever. But like, do simple, small little things that lead to the big outcome, because it's small daily action that leads to big end results.
And I think that's also probably part of what gets in the way, what puts people in their own ways, is they see all of this that needs to be paid and all of this debt and all of this is holding them back, instead of being able to kind of break them up, like you said, in like 7-day increments, not 90 days. And in 90 days, we're going to do this. You're going to teach them like, this is what we're going to do in 7 days. And then this is what we're going to do in another 7 days. And then by the 4th, 7th day, this is where we're going to be at. And then we're going to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that.
Sounds so simple, doesn't it?
Because it is. But
You just got to start. It's like anything else.
But you
just
start.
start.
It's not easy. It's not easy being disciplined. It's not easy telling your friends, no, I can't go to happy hour.
Mm-hmm.
Let's grab a case of beer and come and hang out at the house. I'm not going out to drop $50. We can collectively spend $50 between all four of us, grab food, grab drink. People don't want to do that. It's like, oh, I deserve this. I work hard. Okay, well, you're making a conscious decision to be putting yourself in a bad financial spot.
Short-term pain, long-term gain, baby.
And you know what? It all comes down to these damn parents, Ryan.
Listen, that's a hot topic for people. They don't like it. They get mad. I'm
trust me, I am.
It's so true. Sorry, it is. I'm in full agreement. Like I may not have like been brought up with like the best education around money, and I may be in my 30s, and in the past couple of years I've really only started to like learn about it. But like, I think it's an embarrassment. People think that because like their friends or because people that they're around already know and have already started, and they feel behind, that like they just don't, it holds them back from even starting, because it's like, well, I'm already so far behind, what's the use of even starting? But it's like, just start.
Yep.
All right.
I think we can leave it at that, but that was super helpful. Right. Where can people find you online? I know you're kind of a TikTok sensation. I'm sure you were having heart palpitations when Trump took over because they were talking about banning TikTok. I think you have quite a following there.
It was cool. I mean, TikTok, yeah, for whatever reason, TikTok throws you in front of people that don't know you, and they'll talk to me because they don't know me. They'll talk to me about credit because they don't know me. But just, you can just search I Teach Credit. I encourage people to check out YouTube. I do a lot on Facebook and on Instagram, not as much as on TikTok because TikTok hits. But just YouTube is a great place to go because there's a lot of good content on there. And I'm going to leave with this just because this was the kind of the topic that we were just talking about. But it says, I just posted this on Facebook. When you come from nothing, you want to give your kids everything. You want them to live better than you lived. But the more you give your kids and you don't teach them anything, they learn nothing. And then they don't know how to survive on their own. And I wonder how many parents today, they weren't taught the proper things. So think about what you weren't taught about listening to this awesome podcast and say, what was I not taught that I've learned in this little 30-minute podcast that I can now implement to not only help myself, help my spouse, and help my kids live a better tomorrow? That's a cool thing to think about. And I'm glad we can end with that.
How wholesome. And just so everybody does know too, I mean, when you work with us, like Ryan, this isn't just some random guy that we pulled off of TikTok this time. He is in our tool belt of people and resources to be able to support in, getting you to your goals and getting you prepared and ready. So, if there is anybody who actually does need help with their credit, reach out to us. We'll put you in contact with Ryan. He is part of our planning process. So
if you are looking, it's somewhere around 3,000, 2,000 or 3,000 YouTube followers. It's 123,000 TikTok followers. Everything is branded by these beautiful little logos that you see everybody supporting here today. Everything is I Teach Credit. As you can see, everything is modeled off the American Express idea of being responsible, paying to zero weekly. And, that's it. Please do not ever be embarrassed. 10 years ago, I was dead broke, living in an office, sleeping on an air mattress on an office floor for a whole year. Now I'm traveling the country, teaching people how this stuff works. It's not easy being disciplined, but the credit system is super simple.
And I love your story. And actually, I think we should have another episode. I would love to have you on for another episode to even just talk about that alone, because it's incredible where you were at and where you've kind of evolved into too.
Yeah, I mean, I'll share some dark things where I was and how I pulled myself out of it. And
we all got dark places. I don't know.
That's the good thing.
I don't know if we'd have any listeners after the.
I think it's important for people to know too, though. Like you're not on here as like somebody who's like had a silver spoon in your mouth like your whole life, and that like you've kind of this has been an always thing for you. Like this is something that you have kind of like you picked yourself up and you made it your mission that I'm going to do better, and you get to now give that to other people. And I think that's something that's important.
I'm trying to bring everybody with me because it's a lot more fun hanging on beaches around the world when you have friends to do it with.
Yeah,
if I can teach people to do it for free, it's like turn a house purchase and all the things you buy after you buy the house, turn that into free travel. Let's go.
Hell yeah, brother. All right.
Yeah. Well, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ryan. I'm happy to have you. I'm sure we'll have you back.
Appreciate it.
All right. See you.